everybody's all excited because the PCAC got together on July 23rd and 24th, just this previous Thursday and Friday. And they looked at 7 peptides: BPC-157, KPV, TB500, MOTC, CMAX, epitalon, and DSIP. 6 of them they voted to put on category 1. 1, DSIP, they said that no, it shouldn't go on category 1. But I'm here to tell you, and be upfront, I really hope I'm wrong, but I'm here to tell you it ain't happening. Everything's going into category 2. So let me explain why I believe this and give you 3 additional reasons. So the whole reason I'm here to talk about this stuff is because of what the FDA did. So when I started making videos about BPC-157, I had a torn degenerative meniscus. I went to a doctor. The doctor sent me BPC-157 through a compounding pharmacy, and the stuff worked. It was fantastic. But then the FDA just magically moved everything to category 2. No explanation, just poof, category 2. Well, in the aftermath of the FDA doing that, they were taken to court. And in the lawsuit, they never presented any safety data or anything like that. The entire lawsuit focused on the administrative law procedure that they failed to follow. And they lost the case because essentially what they did when they moved all the peptides from category 1 to category 2, they didn't follow their procedure. And they just updated a PDF on a website. That was it. It's like, boom, one day, all of a sudden, everything's category 2. They're supposed to have a public comment period. They're supposed to convene the PCAC and then go through a rules-making process. It's all very elaborate, and it takes years to execute it, which is something also, while everybody's high-fiving about what happened at the PCAC this previous week, you got to understand, there's still an entire long rulemaking process that they have to go through. And I've heard people talk about maybe by October, everything would be category 1 at best. And it's not happening. But if it was going to happen, you're talking sometime in 2028, even 2029. Trump will be out of office before this stuff makes it to category 1. And it's not going to make it to category 1. Sorry. And so kind of the reason I'm going to go through the three reasons backing up why the FDA is going to put everything in category 2 is the fact that what happened is, this previous week, what happened is the FDA is now following their procedures. They had the public comment period. Lots of people got on, including me, got in, raved about how great peptides are. And then during the PCAC meeting, the FDA scientists got up and they talked about stuff, and they sent out guidance ahead of the meeting saying, hey, all of this is category 2. They recommended category 2. And historically, the FDA does not listen to the PCAC. They're not bound by the PCAC's votes. And further, RFK has nothing to do with the rulemaking process. That is FDA scientists. There's a compounding department that oversees the 503A compounding pharmacies, the FDA attorneys. There's a safety group in the FDA. They're involved, and then senior leadership in the FDA. And the people, all of these people are career civil servants. So I have posted saying that, RFK should fire everybody at the FDA and just use an executive order to put everything in category 1. Well, I failed civics. Actually, we didn't cover this aspect of our federal government. You have the Civil Servants Act or something like that basically says, you can't just fire them arbitrarily. They're protected. It's not at will employment. Once you got a civil servant, once you're a career civil servant, It's a cush job, which I don't think that should be. He can dismiss all the political appointees, and there's things that he could do, but I doubt he does. But anyway, it's a nice fantasy. That's not what's going to happen. The FDA is going to take the PCAC meeting and the public comments and pretty much ignore them and issue out their ruling. But it's going to take a long time because they have to follow their procedures. And the federal government procedures are very meticulous, and they're designed to be slow to make sure that the government is not reactive. Now, there's three additional things behind this and what's going to contribute to this decision for category 2. And by the way, category 1 means compounding pharmacies can compound whatever the substance is. Category 2 is do not compound. Interesting thing with the peptides, they are not illegal to possess. If you have a vial of BPC-157 and you're driving around in your car and you get pulled over and for some reason you consent to a search and the cop finds your vial of BPC, you're probably going to have a conversation about where did you get it and how good is it, and he's going to tell you about his peptide stack and all like that, and you're going to get a speeding ticket and go on your way. If you had an actual illegal substance, different story. Not topic of this video. Anyway, first reason, in my opinion, that the FDA at this point will put everything in category 2 is simply Trump derangement syndrome. That's that. They simply don't like Trump. They are offended at his behavior, which, okay, yeah, you can kind of see it. And I realize you're like, but it's RFK. Doesn't matter. RFK is Trump. And fact is, RFK is disagreeing with him, and they don't like that. They expect deference. They're the big FDA people. So TDS is the first one. And I'll also say it's kind of weak, but I've seen too many stories about various people within our federal government who have, been caught saying that, oh yeah, as soon as Trump's out of office, we're going to undo everything. So you have that aspect, which I don't think is good. The next one is the legit big reason. The FDA's scientists have looked at what they've wanted to look at and concluded that there's not enough randomized human control trials to justify putting the peptides in category 1. They're concerned about efficacy and safety. Now, they're not supposed to. For one of the things that RFK can do, he said what they were supposed to consider was not efficacy, it was safety. It is the only thing they were supposed to consider when they were looking at the peptides. And even as they do the rulemaking, it was only safety. And he can do that piece. Here's the problem with the safety thing. The safety piece that they're talking about is kind of the whole, when they talk about the gray market, endotoxin, sterility, issues like that, where are you getting your research chemicals from? Well, if the peptide is in category 1, it's coming from a compounding pharmacy, which the FDA is supposed to be inspecting and making sure that they're not shipping products that have endotoxins or are not sterile. So by them putting it in category 2, they're actually creating the exact safety issue that they're concerned about. But they're still going to put it in category 2 because they feel that they've done their due diligence and come to their conclusion. And there's also the further thing that the FDA is designed to say no to everything. Look at, part of the thing that I'll get into is how hard it is to get a drug FDA approved. You jump through a lot of hoops and hurdles in order to get an FDA approval for your drug to be sold to the public. So it's kind of a foregone conclusion that they're going to say category 2 to your peptide. It's just the way it is. And unfortunately, no amount of kicking and screaming by us really changes that. So then that brings us to the third part, which is also kind of weak, like the first one, but it's the conspiracy theory around, hey, the big pharma guys don't want this. And again, this is kind of supported also. While it's conspiracy theory, there's a lot of good information that kind of supports this. First, none of these peptides, almost none of the peptides, can really be patented. Or if they had been patented at one point, BPC-157's patent was patented, but it's expired. So they're in a position where they can't really monopolize the product and make huge amounts of profit. And going through all of the drug trials that the FDA requires costs millions, if not hundreds of millions or billions of dollars to go through all of those hoops and hurdles to get that FDA approval. So why would you do it? So right there, category 2, pressure from big pharma. Hey, and where that pressure is coming from is things like, BPC-157 and TB500 helping people heal faster. Well, that encroaches on their territory. MOTS-C, all of these things play a role in healthcare and could cause people not to buy their products. So they don't want the competition. So category 2. Next piece is within healthcare, just the healthcare system itself is not set up for peptides. I know I'm on X, I watch the conversations and I see all these doctors talking about it. They're in the extreme minority. Your average doctor is completely not set up for peptides, and peptides change how healthcare works. The infrastructure of our healthcare system is set up for 2 things: acute care and chronic care. Acute care is when you break a bone or you're actively sick, you got the flu. They're set up and they're very good at handling that. For chronic care, you have hypertension, you have type 2 diabetes, you're morbidly obese, various conditions, heart disease. They're set up to deal with that. But peptides move into this new space of healthcare or health optimization. They're not set up for that. The GLP drugs, Ozempic, Zepbound, all of those things, retatrutide, all of these things are already starting to cause issues for healthcare delivery because all of a sudden you're now optimizing this person's health. That's wonderful, but Presby, Baylor, Common Spirit, none of these organizations are set up to handle that type of stuff. Therefore, category 2. So what do we do about it? Well, first thing is you should be emailing your senator and representative, your Congress critters, and telling them you want this stuff on category 1. You should be emailing RFK. Fortunately, he can't fire everybody. That'd be the easy answer and just EO it all. But we have rules. But I understand that there's serious peptide research that needs to be performed for the next 2 years in Fairbanks, Alaska. We could do that. It's tricky, but he could do that. Anyway, but seriously, the best outcome here is that the FDA looks at the situation, and where the political pressure comes into play is that they look at the situation and they kind of forget the rulemaking procedure, and they make an announcement that they basically say, hey, we won't take any action against a compounder who is producing these while we go through our process. And then they just kind of forget to run the process. That would probably be the best outcome, which would be kind of a soft category 1. Right now, all of the peptides have been moved to, well, they were taken off of category 2, but they were not put on category 1. So they're just in regulatory limbo. There is no rules right now on whether or not they can be compounded. Some compounding pharmacies are currently compounding this stuff. And the interesting piece is, and where this plays in, and the way we win is that the FDA says no action will be taken, and then they take a really long time. Investors build up the infrastructure really fast so that there's billions and billions of commerce going on with these peptides. And you create a situation where the FDA has no choice but to put it in category 1 or to simply not finish the process and need more time to do more research. That's the best outcome. So anyway, I've gone far enough on this. I think you get my point. I don't think these are getting put in category 1 easily. My opinion is, barring a miracle, this stuff goes to category 2. Happily, it's going to take probably a year or two before that happens. So, thank you for making it this far. If you did, like and subscribe, and I'll put the video that started all of this up here. Anyway, you have a good day, and I'll talk to you later.